do you recruit a 21-year-old but know that you're training this person for leadership? What about this 21-year-old who is joining your organization today automatically places them on management track and not on, entry level? Go. So that's what graduate management trainees are for, right? That's what, leadership track hires are for. That you're hiring people and knowing that these people we are hiring, we're training the next crop of our leaders, the next crop of CEOs, the next crop of, people that are going to drive this organization forward. And I think that is a way to begin to look at it. That when I say leaders are both born and made, it's some people are born for that position. And it is important that you can identify them and you can begin to give them the tools and resources they need from the day they join the organization.
Hello and welcome to Just Africa on Soup News Television. Here we break down trends, spotlight opportunities, and tell the African stories differently. And today, and across the continent, millions are working hard, yet too many are learning skills that no longer match the future of work. The real question is no longer how many people we train, but what they are trained for, and whether that learning actually changes lives, productivity, and opportunity. This is Just Africa, and I am Omivi Idolo, and I have with me in the studio Emmanuel Amulo.
Hello, Emmanuel. Your favorite person. Always add your favorite person. Hello Lagos, hello Nigeria, hello Africa. It's actually been a very interesting day. Although it's dull because just a few seconds into coming into the show, learned one of our guests who were hoping to come in and say he lost his mom, and he really just said it like that. I just felt it just reminded me of mine, and the whole mood just changed in the office. I spoke to doctor about it, and doctor like, "Oh wow!" So he had to reach out to the person again. So he just kind of changed the mood. Yeah. I understand people. This is Christmas period. Everybody's trying to celebrate, right? And then this not happens. You don't know what to celebrate anymore. At this moment, anybody who at this point is going through something similar, we express our condolence. We understand it. It's part of life. I think I can speak now because it's been a while, right? But it will get better. Life continues, essentially. But we mourn those that have passed away. But again, not to dampen the mood, we're talking about how to get our workforce to be optimal, right? Yes. The truth is, we know that we're hardworking in Africa. We know human resource is something we don't lack. The problem now becomes, how do we acclimatize? How do we evolve so that when there's a new technology or there's a new idea, we can just fit in, right? Yesterday we were talking about how to fit into this crypto or digital finance, and we know you can shape it away. That's where everybody is moving to. So we need to learn these new skills. Are we prepared for it? What do we need to do? And that's why these kind of conversations need to be had, because everybody needs to be prepared. Yes,
and whatever training you are acquiring now, whatever training it is, does it really fit into the future of the workforce? Because right now, it's not just all about being trained or you're doing online courses. I'm training for this, I'm training for that, I'm doing this.
Do you know that job is going to be there when you get out? All the skills are going to be needed.
How do we empower our youth and how do we go about these? Are some of the things we will be discussing on today's show. So today on Just Africa, we explore how learning and development must evolve beyond certificates and workshops into real capability, adaptability, and growth. From digital skills to leadership, from technical training to lifelong learning, this conversation is about building a workforce that doesn't just survive change, but it drives the change itself. Because empowering Africa's workforce isn't a short-term project. It's a long-term investment in people, productivity, and the continent of Africa generally, the future of Africa generally. And joining us to unpack this robust conversation is Sarah Yusuf, a dynamic learning and development leader whose work has directly upskilled over 60,000 professionals and improved workforce efficiency by 40%. Sarah has spent over a decade designing and implementing innovative learning solutions, from e-learning platforms to leadership development programs, helping organizations across healthcare and other sectors bridge skills gaps and achieve measurable results. Her work exemplifies how thoughtful instructional design and digital transformation can empower employees, drive organizational success, and contribute to Africa's broader development. Hello, Sarah. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, it's good to have you. How are you doing this beautiful afternoon?
Hi, Abuja.
Well, I'm doing very well. Abuja is really dry, but it's fine.
That's good.
Has the Hamatan kicked in yet in Abuja?
Oh yes, it has. It has. I think we're all sort of battling with one flu or the other right now.
So I get it. I just heard where a colleague just say, "Oh, I've got a flu." I said, "Okay, it's Hamatan. It's about to arrive here in Lagos as well." Anyway,
all right.
We're driving straight to the conversation.
Yes, straight up. So when we talk about empowering Africa's workforce, Sarah, what does that mean to the everyday African?
For a very long time, when we talk about empowering in this part of the world, people figured it was giving money or giving some sort of free opportunity. But I feel right now, we need to begin to look at empowerment for what it is, creating the opportunities, the systems, and the infrastructure that can help Africa's workforce upskill rapidly and quickly. Yeah. And so for me in L&D, that is really what empowering Africa's workforce is how do we get the solutions that are contextual to us as Africans, that are relevant to us as Africans, and that are built to address the unique problems that we have in Africa. And not just bringing those solutions, but also deploying it very rapidly. So I think that is what empowering Africa's workforce will mean.
So when you decided to focus on L&D in terms of healthcare and of course public service, I mean, why did you delve towards this side?
That's quite interesting because my first introduction to L&D was as a knowledge management specialist, and it was in the travel IT industry. Okay. So I worked with Amadeus IT Group in France for a short while, right after business school. And at the time, I was covering West Europe, Middle East, and Africa. And one of the things I noted was just how much of a structure there was, and how when we applied that structure across West Europe, it seemed to make some sort of sense in the Middle East, but didn't really make a lot of sense in Africa. And so that sort of got me thinking that the reason why people fail is not because they are unwilling or because they are they are not qualified, but because they are unsupported. So it is a systems failure that we have in Africa. And even when solutions are available, even when there are infrastructures that are being developed, it's not being developed with Africa in mind. Because you see, when you're not at the table building, then nobody is building for you. Yeah. So you're sort of trying to use what people are building for their markets. And that inspired me to really come back to Nigeria and begin to build for home, begin to build with our own unique context in mind, and to answer the solutions to our own problems. And I think for me, L&D is really a lever for equity, sort of just helping strengthen people's skill, and that the ripple effect is beyond just the person, but also to the outcome and to the impact that we have at the end of the day.
I'm assuming that this is what has shaped your approach to, L&D, your work here in Africa, of course, from Nigeria. Share us an example where this approach helped an individual or an organization.
So interestingly, when COVID struck Nigeria, I was part of the team that worked on deploying the first massive and very robust learning management system that was deployed across the nation. We built that project in like 1 month. And at the time, there was a lot of uncertainty. There were, lots of questions that nobody could answer. It was new. We were all just experiencing it for the first time. And for the first time, I think on a large scale in healthcare, we could not bring people into the classroom to teach them. We could not organize the workshops, the step down trainings. We could not have all of that happening. And it was the first time that I think I got the call that says, we need this solution deployed. And that was absolutely just amazing, because for me, it was impact on the sport. And all of the preconceptions that people had about learning in Africa. So initially people would say, oh, Nigerians don't like online learning. Oh, no, we are not going to accept it. Oh, no. But we take courses on Coursera and Udemy. You know, we do EDX and we are proud of it. We share it on LinkedIn. We do all of these things. So why can we not build something for ourselves, you know? So it was the first time that I saw it at scale. And since then, there has been such a huge acceptance across the country, and we're just growing more, we're learning more, and we're building more.
All right. Thank you very much, Sarah. And I love the fact that you said we are learning more, we are building more. Now, there are so many training out there. Africans are being trained for one job position or the other. Yet, productivity level to a very large extent does not match or does not equate the level of training people are getting. What could be responsible for this?
This is interesting. You know, I asked this question myself severally. One of the things I first noticed was training for us was first of all viewed as an opportunity where your organization sort of wanted to reward you. So they sent you for a training.
For training, yes.
And it was not viewed as a strategic part of the business or a strategic part of national development that needed to have return on investment with clearly defined key performance indicators. And so I thought for the longest time, we were deploying trainings for the sake of it. But the world is changing. And all of a sudden, we are realizing that we cannot stay far off. And what is starting to happen is people are realizing that the skills I learn and the faster I can learn those skills, the easier it is for me to set myself apart to be relevant in the world. And so instead of that reward-based training, it's more like training to catch up with what is happening, so we are not obscure and we are not obsolete. So I think that the mindset is starting to shift. Before now, the foundation was probably not the best, but currently I'm starting to pick that tempo that people are starting to, you know what, I need to learn new skills. It's not about the degree I have anymore. It's not about what I have been learning or I have been taught before. It is now about going directly for skills. And that is the beauty with what e-learning really is offering, is we're not building a master's program. We're not building a BSc. You don't have to take a course because it is required for something. Come on, learn the specific skill you need, and it helps you go in to do the job you need to do fast and as soon as possible. So really, I think there's a bit of a shift in that area.
Okay. All right. So another thing when it comes to training is that it is meant to change the behavioral pattern of a person or of an organization. So when the behavior of the trainee doesn't change in an organization, whom should we hold accountable for that?
Now, this is interesting. So one of my mentors is a behavioral scientist. And I realized that one of the things that we don't pay attention to, like you have rightly noted, is behavior, right? Because the end of every training endeavor should be able to feed back into the behavior. Now, it's two things. Is it a systems problem? Which I would not want to go much into, but I think in Africa, we do have a systems problem, not necessarily a people problem all the time. Now, there could be a people problem, but it's more of a systems problem. And one of the things that I find is happening rapidly is, so say I equip someone with maybe the skills for AI in health, in healthcare, how to deploy AI solutions in healthcare to be able to rapidly respond to your patients, reduce patients waiting time, improve patients outcome. But the AI infrastructures are not available in their facility for them to even be able to carry out that training. That is not it's a systems problem. It's an infrastructure problem. It doesn't have to do with the person themselves. Now we have that. Then we have the other side where we ask ourselves, every training program should be preceded by a needs analysis, which means training should never be done for the sake of training. Training should be done because it is needed. And there is a clearly defined goal for each training endeavor. Now, that clearly defined goal will determine who is taking the training, why we're maybe sending them or paying for them, or even they themselves, why they're paying for themselves to come and learn the skills. So if you're doing something without the goal of what you would do with it at the end, we would see a problem with performance change or behavioral change, not being feasible, or not even, sometimes it's not like there is no behavioral change, but nobody is even looking for it. There is no way to measure it. There's no way to ascertain that this has happened. So I would not say there is a person to hold responsible. I would say it's really the system that guides it that we should be holding responsible.
Okay.
I do like the fact that you mentioned that your whatever it is you're learning should meet a skill or meet a need rather. Otherwise, that learning is just wasted. And when you mentioned it, it kind of reminded me of a lot of trainings that we do. We do a lot of talk, right? Most of our trainings is a lot of talk. Then you now meet a training that is sophisticated. When you now go back to your office, you now probably see whatever I learned, I can't even put it to use because most of the materials are not there. How do you measure impact after training, for example? How do you measure impact and ensure that whatever is trained meets that need?
So that is quite interesting because when we talk of measuring impact, right, there are quantitative and qualitative ways that we can do that. And I think one of the hardest things for an L&D person is really to be able to say this is the impact. But for me, beyond completion rates, which is what we see a lot of people do, 20 people took the course, 18 people completed it, that means it was good. No, I focus on the application of what they learned. And so I always, advise that there is a feedback loop that is directly tied to job performance or roles that people have. So for example, if you are a manager, can we see that your team is having a better experience since this training than before the training? I also focus on the performance indicators that are directly linked. And this is where, I would really talk to people who design trainings. Every performance indicator should be directly linked to an outcome for your training. So training outcomes should not exist in isolation. They should be directly linked to job performance and the indicators that have been pre-established. And ultimately, we also have organizational outcomes. Now, these are, big ways where we kind of have to build all of this sophisticated L&D or M&E systems to be able to meet them. But however, we also have ways like feedback loops. What are the people who took your training saying? What are the people that are their direct stakeholders saying? What is the result coming out of the business saying? So I think it is majorly going to be application performance indicators and organizational outcomes, but this will be supported by the feedback loops, by the analytics, and also by our ability to keep refining the training. Because I tell people, if I'm deploying the same training for 2, 3, 4 years, it means that there's something I'm not hearing. I need to have that feedback that is coming either from the results or from the people to be able to say, you know what, let's switch this, let's up this, let's create all of these branching scenarios or something. So that is really, for me, what looking at the ROI on training would be.
So I was going to just jump this in. If you meet resistance in terms of training, because you're a L&D person, right? And then you meet resistance, people are just stuck in their old ways, they don't want to move. How do you tackle that?
Wow, this is interesting because it's more common than you can imagine. There are two ways, right? And it's really depending on what the goal is. The first is for adult learners who are my target audience. One of the key ways to get adult learners to learn is that they need to see what is in it for them. They need to be willing to come. And when I have a willing participants who are like, you know what, we know we need this thing. We don't trust you. We don't trust how you're deploying it. We don't trust that you're going to do this well, but we know we need it. They are the easier not to crack. They're the easier not to crack because all you have to do is beyond showing them your foolproof system, showing them what you have done before and how it has worked. That sort of waters down the resistance. Then there is the other group. We do not care. We don't know why we're here. We were probably sent here by force. We don't want to listen to you, and we really don't think you can do this. Now that group is the hardest to crack. And like I always say, when you build a system, your hope and your desire for it is that it can convey your expertise and the need for your acceptance to your audience. But if and when your audience is a resistant audience, work with the first early adopters who are willing to test your system. And if you can show results in them, it breaks down resistance for the others. So I always tell people, don't send a team that is unwilling to. You know, we have issues where people send an organization for training and then they start sending you messages. You know what, can we cut it? We'll just do 1 hour shares online. You know, brief this for us. No, when you have a team like that, it's best to work with those who are willing. And then based on the results you're able to generate, the later adopters would always come on board. But your target audience for adult learners will always be people who see the need, because adults are really tough to work with. And if they do not see the need for this, there is very little you can do to convince them otherwise. So your convincing should be in the needs analysis, not on the execution or the deployments.
All right. Thank you very much, Sarah. I love the fact that you're breaking down and everyone is understanding, because I know I'm
follow-up questions.
I'm always learning a lot, and I'm glad he's learning.
Please.
Okay, so we want to talk about technology and training is in a corporate organization. Like you rightly said, because it is an online, because it is maybe via Zoom or whatever, people tend not to pay attention to training. Or then at other times, people will tell you, okay, we cannot pay, or the organization might say that we can't fund you traveling to so place, so let's do it online. Now let's look at it. What role? What is it? Should we say technology is playing a positive or negative role in terms of training? Because I cannot balance it. You are the expert here. Help us understand.
So this is interesting. My background is in human resources.
Okay.
So when I approached e-learning, right, as a tool for organizational development, it for me has always been people-focused, technology-enabled. It's never about the technology first. It's about the people.
Wow.
So what we end up doing in many cases is we have this technology and then we try to convince people to buy into it. But what it should be is we look at the people and then build the technology that matches their needs. Now, training has always been very expensive. And every time a business and organization is in trouble, the first thing they cut is training. That tells us something already, right? We cannot insist on doing what has been difficult or has not necessarily worked. So e-learning is giving us a cheaper and easier and a faster option to be able to deploy training. And what we have is a lot of jobs in the world really require you to have SOPs, you know, standard operating procedures, job aids. And we have these big flip charts we hang all around our offices and checklists for people to follow. We have been doing all of that. Now, that is not very much different from what e-learning is bringing. E-learning is just bringing a simpler, easier, more accessible way to learning the things that you can learn. One of the things I advise businesses in Nigeria to do, and that's because I understand the limitation of our environment. I understand that people want to leave home, check into a hotel, go to a training room, you know, have all of that. I understand it. But can we cut down, say, training from 5 days to 2 days? If we're able to have, say, the introduction done virtually, can we have a system whereby your staff does not necessarily have to leave their job to go get trained? Now, I am a huge fan of asynchronous learning. And what asynchronous learning means really is self-paced learning, where the learning management system has been built and all of these resources are already there. You can log in from home, you can do it on the go, you can do it even at the moment you need that knowledge or you need that information. These things are, so I don't want us to look at it as, are we picking the traditional way or this? Let's look at what advantages does e-learning have. Is it possible that I have someone on the job who say maybe needs to quickly work on some data using Excel, and in the moment you can go online, look at an Excel template built for your company that is being taught to you in 15 minutes, and you go along, doing your job. If you were to go for a training, say a 5-day training for that, you will not be effective in the moment. But with e-learning, we give you the option to be effective in the moment, to utilize this resource in the moment. And also for the organization, it helps that once the big investment has been done, no matter how difficult the business is, we are not cutting training out. There is an alternative. There is a way for our people to upskill. The world is giving all of us a huge, huge root shocker. Right? It's changing. It is faster than our hands can meet, faster than our 5-day training or 10-day training. We need this like now, and we need it like immediately. So I think e-learning really is a supportive infrastructure rather than an infrastructure that is here to replace what you already do. So don't look at it as a competition. Look at it as a supportive tool. So why train you 2 times in a year when you can have it 365 days a year? As much as you need, when you need, and what you need, that you can go directly to what you need without having to go through all the preliminary that a typical training would have. So I think that is really what e-learning should be for the business, much more than, a replacement.
Yes, I want to ask how an organization will be able to balance immediate needs with long-term goals. How can organizations do that? And again, sorry, I'm going to ask 2 in one question. The second one is, maybe you just answer that one very fast. You said, why go for 5 days training when you can have it for 365 days? Don't you think when this training, especially in-house training, are being done every other night, every day and all that, people begin to see it as a ritual in the organization? Okay, let's just go for it. So it does not, let's just go and tick the box. Let's just go and mark ourselves present instead of actually gaining from that training. Don't you think people start saying it that way?
So, the thing with e-learning is e-learning is not Zoom. It's not Google Meet. E-learning is resources already available. So when we say 365 days, it doesn't mean your staff have to compulsorily sit down, mark an attendance. It is that they have it when they need it.
Okay.
Good.
And one of the, they have it when they need it. So it's micro learnings here and there. So classic example, like I gave, let's assume I'm a nurse and say we have an infectious disease patient that we haven't treated before walk into our facility, say Lassa fever. It's my first time encountering it. I know it. I have been taught there is a protocol. I know the protocol. But at this moment, is it possible that I can take 5 minutes on my fingertip, Lassa fever protocol, and I can just see step by step, this is what you do, this is what you do, this is what you do. The nurse has learned, they feel empowered in the moment to approach the patient without being afraid. So that's really what 365 days a year training means, that it's available for you. It's there on your fingertip. Now, I feel like for a business that wants to survive the 21st century, you will need to be a learning organization. And a learning organization is not an organization that sends its staff for training. It's an organization that can embed training in its daily systems. That every single interaction within your organization is built to enable learning. Now, e-learning is one of those. There are so many other strategies, but training, physical training, is the least of it. So a learning organization is an organization that embeds learning in every system. So my staff interaction, how do I pair them? Is there mentoring and coaching going on every day? On the job role, job descriptions are being designed to enable you learn and grow, because we understand that we are here for the long run. But in truth, the company that does not upskill its workforce is going to lose them to the companies that will. People are agitated. People are wondering, what is the future holding for me? AI is here. They are telling us it's going to take over everybody's job. Would rather work for an organization that is thinking of that future than one that is enjoying the moment and just soaring in the moment. And that is really what it is. So I think the question of becoming a learning organization is no longer should you, it is will you be here when we all are. That's really nice.
I'm thinking as a business right now, and I have workers who I cannot get their talent to upscale my business, right? And then I take them to training. You already mentioned that our ways of learning are not the same. Some can catch it immediately, some will take a while. How do I ensure I still get the best out of everybody, even though I know their learning speed is not the same?
Asynchronous learning has always been designed in such a way that it's like the Montessori system of learning, right? Where you have 20 children in a classroom, but they are not all being graded on the same exam. They are not all being checked with the same abilities. Nobody is looking at it in a way that, oh, you all have to be doing the same thing. But the idea is that we are building systems that can follow. And that will lead me to another conversation, which is my current area of interest. And I'm particularly excited to talk about human AI collaboration. Recently, one of the biggest conversation in the field of A&D is that of L&D, sorry, is that how can we build intelligent systems that respond to the needs of the individuals? So, is it possible that when people are learning, the system that powers it is working with them and is not a set system that they have to adapt to? I think that is a question that we are starting to answer, because the conversation on co-regulation of humans and AI and collaboration between humans and AI is starting to take a whole new turn. That we now have people taking the same training at completely different pace, seeing completely different things, literally built for their style of learning, for their level of knowledge, for what their abilities are, what they need at the moment. And I think that is something that we should be encouraging and we should be trying to adapt. But one thing for sure, humans do not learn the same way. Humans do not learn at the same systems that we all use. Humans have their own way of learning, their own way of training. People are at different levels of intelligence. And so our solutions should be moved to address that. Our solutions should be built to address that. And I think it's one of the key things that introducing AI to the L&D space is doing for us, that we're able to address different types of learners at different levels, and we are able to have the same great result at the end of the day.
If you are going to advise a business or an organization, would you say it is unfair for them to constantly evaluate their staff using the same parameters?
You know, there's this popular saying that says, if you try a fish by making it climb a tree, it will live its whole life thinking it's foolish.
Yes.
That is very true. That is absolutely very true. I started by saying that I'm coming from a HR background, right? Yeah. And one of the things I understand is when you're hiring, there are different reasons you hire people. There are people that you hire because they are technically sound. They have the skill you need. They have everything you need. Then there's this unique group of people sometimes. They call them personality hires, but I really think they drive the backbone of the organization. They have the right attitude, the right vibes, the right mindset. People are better around them. People can do well because they are there. They create a great workplace environment for everyone. There are people that help the culture, right? They help the learning culture, they help the learning system. So I think at the end of the day, you need to understand the strength your staff brings. I have heard certain stories, especially with small businesses, where a seemingly not very effective staff was let go. And at the end of the day, because they let go of that staff, the entire morale of the team dropped, or the entire infrastructure that was invisible, that was powering success in the organization dropped. So I think the thing is, first of all, you need to understand what strengths do they bring and how does it fit. And that is why it is intentional. You have to be intentional when building your team. Don't just hire good people. You should hire good people. You should hire people who are technically sound. You should hire people who have the right attitude. You should hire people who are leaders and people naturally gravitate towards them. That is how a team should work. And so when I am evaluating people, evaluate each person at the area of their strength and then give them the support that they need to meet up to the overall business goals. I think that's really the strategy for that.
Okay, thank you so much. So I want to ask, I don't know if you're going to answer this question, but I will ask anyway. We don't know whether you will answer, but what truth, when it comes to leadership, those of you at L and D, you don't like listen. Now, this is a question coming from someone who is watching. Okay, so I read, say, what truth about leadership development are L and D terms not allowed to say out loud?
Oh, wow. So we're not allowed to say it out loud when I'm supposed to say it here.
Yeah.
Okay. This is a tough sport.
Say it.
Okay. Okay. Leaders are both born and made, and leaders do not always sit at the top of the organization. The CEO is not always the leader. The janitor could be the leader. It's interesting, but sometimes when you study the structure of an organization, the leader is not always the obvious one. And it is important to be able to discern and to really investigate and see who is leading things here, because that person doesn't always sit at the top.
Okay.
Yeah, doesn't always sit at the top.
So if the leader doesn't sit at the top all the time, why is it so difficult for some people to let those that are not given the title of a leader to be at the helm of affairs? Now, like you said, that there are some people that may not have the required skills, but they just gravitate things and things just work under them. But we have seen leaders who carry the title and they ensure that that person doesn't succeed, and which affects, of course, the whole work.
That again is a systems and a structural problem. Okay. And this is where personally as an individual, I have a problem with promotions being based around how long you've been in an organization. Let's take a classic example. When you look at big companies globally, right, there's something they do in recruitment. Whenever they're recruiting, they have a special track where they recruit leaders straight out of the university. The question you ask yourself is, how do you recruit a 21-year-old but know that you're training this person for leadership? What about this 21-year-old who is joining your organization today automatically places them on management track and not on, entry level? Go. Yeah, because so that's what graduate management trainees are for, right? That's what, leadership track hires are for. That you're hiring people and knowing that these people we are hiring, we're training the next crop of our leaders, the next crop of CEOs, the next crop of, people that are going to drive this organization forward. And I think that is a way to begin to look at it, that when I say leaders are both born and made, it's some people are born for that position, and it is important that you can identify them and you can begin to give them the tools and resources they need from the day they join the organization. But there are also people that are open to learning, and it is quite important that they do. Now, one of the things that I have seen happen again and again with especially natural born leaders is whether or not they get to sit in the office, they command the influence from where they are. Whether or not they ever get there. It would be nice if they do, because then the change is, absolutely amazing. There is no friction at the top. The leadership doesn't begin to feel threatened. But whether or not they're given that title, they always gravitate towards that. So I just think that we have a problem with how we decide who leads an organization, and we could do better with that.
Okay.
We could do better with that.
Final question for me. Yeah. At one point, I know you've done HR before, so this helps. At what point do you recommend for a staff to be fired, especially when you have trained the person and the person is not bringing out results?
Okay, so I have a cardinal rule, right? If you can afford it, don't be too quick to fire for performance. I always, tell businesses who can afford it, because I understand there are small businesses that don't have the luxury of budget. But for a business that can afford it, say I hire you as a front desk and you're really bad at it, you would do better doing something else. Can we switch departments? Can we move managers? Can we sort of, try to give you different options to see how well you would cope? But if and when a staff, because that's the thing, loyalty does not just have to be with the staff liking you or liking the business. It has to do with them doing all they can to succeed on the role and help the business thrive. When you are lacking that all I can attitude, that's the time to let the staff go.
Okay.
You deserve my flowers, but I can't give you. I can't give you.
That was really beautiful. Okay, so before we let you go, because our time is almost up, in 1 minute, I just want you to give your final words as regarding training, as regarding skills, as regarding acquiring new knowledge generally.
The next decade that we're going into is going to surprise all of us. For some in very pleasant ways, for some in unpleasant ways. But we should understand that the ones who are prepared, who are ready, and who have opened their hearts up to change and to upskilling to meet the demand would be the ones who would absolutely thrive. So my advice for us is, whether you're a business or you're an individual or you are in opportunity to make policy or build governance structures at national level, at state level, you should be thinking of building scaffolds that will support our workforce. Most of the population in our country are very young people. And the beauty of these young people is they're super malleable. They are the one generation that do not mind studying law in the university and learning photography. That tells us something, right? That these are people who, if given the right infrastructure, if given the right systems, are able to meet up to the demand that would take our workforce to the next level, that would take our human resources as a nation to the next level, and would also rise up to meet global demand. So I think we should begin to think futuristically. We should begin to, while we're trying to survive today, remember that we're stepping into a decade that is unprecedented and that is very, very different from what we know today. So let's begin to build for it. Let's begin to think about it. I think personally, I'm tired of people telling me, oh, this is so unrealistic. It's not unrealistic. It's coming, right? It's coming, and we need to be prepared for it. Yeah.
A very big thank you to you, Sarah Yusuf, for your beautiful insights. In fact, we appreciate your time and your contribution. Thank you so much.
Thank you.